Hundreds of officers working alongside an army of city crews on Seattle's Capitol Hill. The Capitol Hill organized protest zone, the CHOP, is just a memory. And Tuesday, most of the physical reminders were cleared.
This is how we got here today. It all started June 8th amid the protests following the death of George Floyd. The protesters wanted to call attention to racial injustice, police brutality, and calling for police to be defunded now. The city tried to move the barriers out last week, but they were stopped by a lot of protesters there. Some of those barriers were then moved yesterday, but the protesters made their own barriers.
It's from the CHOP zone in Seattle. Let's give you a live look right now at what's happening on Capitol Hill. A bulldozer has just showed up to the intersection here to start removing barriers near Seattle PD's East Precinct. As you can see right there, there is a protester that's lying in the street.
You hear that?
We have breaking news this morning out of Seattle's so-called Capitol Hill organized protest zone. Yet another shooting overnight. Early this morning, protesters finished a march back to Cal Anderson Park near the CHOP when they say gunshots were fired nearby. You could hear the shots on that live stream, which was being carried on Facebook by one of the protesters.
Here's some breaking news, folks. Right now, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan announced a plan to send the police back in to the CHOP protest zone and to reclaim the East Precinct that she made them abandon 2 weeks ago.
Many protesters still sleeping were told to get out.
All persons who are unlawfully occupying Cal Anderson Park area, who are in public rights of way or the park, shall be directed to leave the closed area immediately. I am Seattle Police Department. I am now issuing a public safety order to disperse 9 men all.
You can hear those chants, move back. I have seen pepper spray deployed already this morning. We just watched that happen right there under the stoplight. And yeah, they...
Mike and 12, okay? Please stay there. You're going around.
Yeah.
Guys, get out of here.
You want us to go that way or you want us to go this way? Okay. This way? Yes, sir.
Go.
SPD is clearing us out. We are moving ahead right now here on 12th. We're going to...
You have 5 minutes to disperse.
I want you guys to picture your daughter's faces on mine right now.
Police arrested those who refused to leave, other protesters leaving on their own. Some neighbors say they have been waiting weeks to get their streets back.
CHOP has fallen. A half a dozen city blocks occupied by protesters for more than 3 weeks is now in the hands of Seattle police. Taken by force early Wednesday morning.
I don't think anyone's won anything out of this. I think we've actually lost.
Here's how we got here. It started 3 weeks ago after unrest over the death of George Floyd in Minnesota. After several nights of clashes with protesters, Seattle police pulled out of the East Precinct and protesters took over that area, then barricaded parts of East Pine on June 8th and then started calling that area the Capitol Hill Organized Protest, or CHOP. 12 days later, the first of 4 shootings happened. Last Sunday, crews tried to remove barriers, but protesters pushed back. Then early Monday morning, 2 teenagers were shot. One of them died. Finally, early today, police moved in and arrested those who remained outside the East Precinct. And right to breaking news, multiple protests are happening across the city of Seattle right now. We have reports of people marching through Mayor Jenny Durkan's neighborhood, protesters outside City Hall, and many people still up on Capitol Hill. And that is despite a 48-hour emergency order for people to leave that area around the East Precinct.
More than 3 weeks ago, Seattle police abandoned the East Precinct after a relentless push by protesters. A building that was claimed by the people. Today, the paint has been wiped clean. The park that once housed hundreds is closed for the time being. But not all the protesters have gone home. Overnight, live stream cameras captured yet another confrontation. More than 24 protesters were arrested near Broadway and Pine for refusing to leave. Police held the line. And by morning, the cleanup continued.
I saw on Twitter this morning from you that you said that, CHOP was never the goal, and it's important to keep that in mind. Can you elaborate on that?
It was never the goal for us to establish Capitol Hill as an area that we could occupy for an extended period of time. It's a symptom. And I think that CHOP genuinely can become, or had become in a way, a distraction from the actual demands that have been given to Jenny Durkin and other governing bodies. It was a distraction from the reality that brought us out.